Hey guys, it's Kaylee. My order is over Perissodactyla. They are the odd-toe ungulates, and this order is made up of 3 families, 6 genera, and 18 species. They consist of horse, tapirs, and rhinoceros. The family within the orders are Equidae, Tapiridae, and Rhinocerotidae. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but don't make fun of it. They are commonly referred to as odd-toe ungulates, and their libs are mesozonic and ungularigrade. Ungularigrade is when only the hoof touches the ground, and mesozonic is the third digit makes up the axis of symmetry on the animal. Ungulates are hoofed animals, and the central digit carries the majority of the weight. Oh, I didn't even press present mode. Okay. A key physical trait in this order is the number of digits on each toe, hence the nickname odd-toe ungulates. This distinguishes them from the order Artiodactyla, which is actually even-toed ungulates. Another key trait is that their axis of symmetry passes through their middle digit, making them mesozonic. Most of their body weight is held by the third digit. Perissodactyls have a simple stomach and a large cecum. This is where bacterial fermentation of cellulose occurs. The cecum is a pouch or sac-like structure connected at the junction of the small and large intestines. This is where undigested food from the small intestine is received. Since they have a simple stomach, their diet, they cannot digest cellulose on their own, thus they break it down with cellulitic organisms. This is microbial fermentation. Perissodactyls have a phenomenon called pneumatic stabilization, which helps control inhalation and exhalation. This is the most useful when running, especially when running from predators, because it controls their breathing and they're able to keep a steady pace without getting too tired too quick, which is also a good reason that they have great agility and stuff like that. They have connective tissue, which is a distinct ungulate specialization. The nuchal ligament is a heavy band of allicin that helps support the heavy head of these mammals, such as the horses. An important ecological requirement for this order is a temperate climate. They are typically herbivores, which means they feed mostly on grasses, shrubs, and ground cover. They are agile and have exceptional running and speed abilities despite their size. And since they are herbivores, they have developed cheek teeth, which helps with the breaking down of the tough vegetation that they eat and then digest. The mammal's behaviors differ from either social or solitary. So social, they interact with other animals, and solitary, they go off on their own, and they really only connect with other animals when it's mating season. Horses are social animals grouping together in herds or harems, and so are zebras. While tapirs and rhinos are solitary animals that remain on their own until mating season. The exception to the rhinos is the white rhino, because it's got a more complex social hierarchy than the rest of the rhino species. Mammals within this order can be considered crepuscular or diurnal. Crepuscular animals are the most active during the twilight hours, and then they rest during the day, whereas diurnal animals are most active during the day. This is the taxonomic classification, so kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Mammalia, order Perissodactyla, and then the families that make up this order are the Equidae, the Tapiridae, and the Rhinocerotidae. The conservation of perissodactyls is important. An important way to conserve these animals is to live alongside them, rather than to run them out of their habitat, infringe on their habitat, destroy their habitat. The major threat to perissodactyls is habitat loss. The Malayan tabir is strongly affected by this because of deforestation. The aim would be to sustainably live on the land, but respect the habitats of the wildlife that also call it home. This can be done by not overbuilding, recycling, and keeping an eye out for poachers. The goal is basically cohabitation for all, so humans and animals live alongside one another than rather against each other. Evolution, it occurred during the mid-Paleogene period, which comes after the dramatic ending and departure of the Mesozoic period. This period is actually where dinosaurs are thought to have gone extinct. During the mid-Paleogene period, the ungulates were ample and abundant due to the increase of ecological space and less competition of habitat left by the dinosaurs. They were actually a really diverse and strong order of mammals, but when the artiodactyls came into existence, they kind of threatened and therefore declined the populations of perissodactyls. They evolved on the continent Laurasia, which is the northern part of the once supercontinent we know as Pangaea. They are also thought to have arose in what we know as Asia presently. Like I said before, they were once a very thriving order, where they were most abundant during the Middle Eocene. The ancestors include the Perissodactyla, which was the largest known land mammal. It was actually considered a giant and could weigh up to a ton. And it could be described as a giant hornless rhino. The end of the Oligocene and beginning of the Miocene was the beginning of the decline for perissodactyls. Of course, it was after the artiodactyls came into place and created a competition for food and habitat. So family Equidae, which are the horses, asses, and zebras, in the age of Eocene, horses were the size of medium dogs. For instance, they were as small as a border collie or, other small dogs, poodles, boxers. They evolved on the North American continent millions of years ago, but they migrated through Alaska by way of the Bering Strait and into Siberia, and they became non-existent on the North American continent and could not be found. But when Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, he reintroduced the horses to the Americas, and we know they had quite an abundant life here. For instance, the Western Stallion, the cowboys. HSU. They're most highly cursorial, and they're the most graceful of all the perissodactyls. Now they're only found wild in Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia. The domesticated horses are larger in general to the wild horse. They have thought to have been domesticated by the Batai people of the southern grasslands in Kazakhstan. So the Batai people were in the steep cliffs the grasslands of Kazakhstan, and 99% of the bones found within their, what's the word I'm looking for? Their site or their home was of horse bones. And it's thought that they interbred their domesticated horses with wild horses. Also, ancient hieroglyphics found in Mesopotamia, Egypt, and other ancient civilizations also suggest horses were domesticated as early as 1500 BC. Bones found in archaeological sites suggest more slender legs that differ from the horses. So the relevancy of the slender legs points to specific breeding for certain traits. You can only specific breed when you've domesticated an animal. Another key thing found in horse fossils were the teeth, and I picked this photo specifically to show y'all what a bit piece looked like, and we're going to get to that. The teeth of some ancient horses had a pattern of wear from what appeared to be the bit piece. A bit piece is used in domesticated horses, and you use it when you're riding them, and it controls their head, which basically controls the animal, because if you turn it this way and this way with the bit piece, they're going to follow everywhere you go. So, it was very relevant in finding these teeth patterns because it also helped cement their theory that they were domesticated as early as like the Batai people and ancient civilizations. So they come from the genus Equus, and they're polygynous animals, which is a one male, multiple female group. They have 4 digits on their front feet with 3 on the hind feet, so 3 is the odd toe ungulates, which makes them the part of the Perissodactyla family. They have hypsodont cheek teeth that help with the grinding of their vegetation that they eat. So typically you see horses eating like hay and oats and grazing in pastures, and the cheek teeth really help with grinding that in so that they can swallow it and digest it. They also have elongated skulls, and they're social animals that live in groups called herds. Their habitats include savannas, grasslands, but can ultimately be found all over the world. Unlike cows, horses only have one stomach, so this makes digestion a really task for them because it involves more work. Within the 7 species of this family, there are over 400 breeds of horses. You can also find multiple diseases in horses, which is what I have right here, the West Nile virus, which kills up to 1/3 of the horses it infects, and its symptoms include those of muscle twitching, neurological signs, and the animals aimlessly wander, and in some cases it results in blindness. So the West Nile virus is a viral virus that they can get from mosquitoes or mosquito larvae. So their water source, if they during the hot summer months, and the mosquitoes will come and lay their larvae into the water source, and then the horse will then drink the contaminated water and become infected with West Nile virus. Which up to 1/3 of the horses, that's a lot to kill, and it can be potentially dangerous and deadly. The Potomac horse fever is also another disease that runs rampant during the high heat summer months. The symptoms of this disease is colic-like behavior, depression, fever, and even diarrhea. Now, the 2 diseases that I've listed here can easily be prevented, such as the West Nile virus can be prevented if you treat the water to make it not so satisfying or appealing to the mosquitoes. I don't really think you can treat the Potomac horse fever rather than just go see your vet immediately. But snails are a carrier to this disease, it's a bacteria. And once the bacteria enters water, it is expelled, and then the horse drinks the contaminated water. Wild horses are smaller than domesticated horses, and they're only found in parts of Africa and parts of Asia. They live in mesocs, which are a type of environment where water and food is very plentiful for them. They're social animals grouped into a herd and led by a stallion. The Mongolian wild horse is related to the domesticated horse, but it does have some variables and differences, such as size, skull features, and teeth features. Of course, they wouldn't have bit pieces, so their teeth wouldn't have a wear pattern created by the bits like domesticated horses would. They are on the endangered list of the IUCN, but landowners in China and Mongolia are becoming more aware of the importance of these animals both historically and ecologically, and they're helping bring up the populations by creating sanctuaries and conservation areas to protect these horses. They are also, strangely enough, found in northeastern California in the Devil's Garden Plateau. But their presence here causes a disturbance with local ranch hands or ranchers because they want to argue that the land could be used for more useful ways such as livestock and farming and agriculture and stuff like that. But there are groups that defend the wild horses and fight for their right to expand and call that place their home. There are upwards of about 2,200 wild horses that populate this patch of land, and they are under legal protection by the government. Here we have zebras, which are also part of family Equidae. There are 3 subspecies of zebras, and you can really tell these apart from the plains, mountain, and grevies. So they also have stripes that differentiate between the 3, but their stripes act as camouflage. So the mountains, of course, would probably camouflage them from the steep rocky cliffs, but the plains and grevies zebras, their stripes help them camouflage in the high grasslands of the savannas. The plains and grevies zebra has to take in water every couple of hours, while the mountain zebra can go up to 2 or 3 days without it, so they have a really good retention of water. They are social animals, but they travel in harems. They're herbivores, and they have thick bodies with short legs, but they suffer from an infringement on their habitat and poaching. So the plains and grevies zebra inhabit the savannas and grasslands, while the mountain zebra inhabits the steep cliffs. The harems that I talked about that consists of one male, and sometimes it'll consist of a second male that is subservient to the other male and can be kicked out at any given time. Donkeys, which are another species within Equidae, they are characterized by having long floppy ears and are stockier than the rest of their relatives. Found all over the world, and they are quite common. I mean, you can go out to Holly and see them everywhere. They can carry tremendous loads on their back, making them one of the most useful domesticated animals. They are relatives of the African wild ass, and they're one of the anthropomorphisms that they have is that they're stubborn and not as easily frightened as horses. So they're territorial and stoic animals. So stoic means that they lack expression, which is not good because when a donkey falls ill, it's really hard to tell because of their lack of expression, and it can be deadly, especially in serious illnesses. They have less amounts of grease in their coats, making their coat not as waterproof as the horses. Another thing that differentiates them between the horses is their upright and elastic feet. Another fun fact is that they can crossbreed with a horse and create a mule. So this is the family Tapiridae. So you've got the Malayan tapir, the Baird's tapir, the mountain tapir, and the lowland tapir. Now, unlike family Equidae, I didn't really go into much depth of the tapirs because when writing the paper, they basically have a lot of the same and similar characteristics. And get ready because in 2 days, it's World Tapir Day. So there are 4 species within the family. The stocky and short animals They are stocky and short animals. They first appeared during the middle of the Eocene, and they are nicknamed the walking fossil. They're nicknamed the walking fossils because their skulls resemble ancient rhinoceros skulls, or I forget what it's called. Ceratomorphs, which were closely related to ancient rhinos. Thus, this is why they are called walking fossils. They are found in the tropics of Central America and Southeast Asia, and they communicate vocally with high-pitched shrills. So the Malayan tapir, right up here, is found in the jungles of Southeast Asia, notably the pantanal wetlands of Uruguay, Bolivia, and Brazil. Their coat is uniquely short, but their coloring is very distinct, as you see here. They've got a black right here, and a huge chunk of white. So right here, huge chunk of white. They are not social animals, but they are territorial, and they mark their territory by ways of urinating. They are considered endangered by the IUCN due to habitat loss, and they are legally protected in Indonesia, and there's also some works being made in Malaysia to protect this species. So the Baird's tapir, which is right here, are found in the forest, rainforests, and the palm swamps, and even some mountain forests. Terrestrial and freshwater landscapes are important for this animal. They are nocturnal, and like others, they are herbivores. They are listed as endangered by the IUCN list, mainly because of human disturbances in their habitats. And a fun fact is that they really are shy animals, and they will not, at all costs, interact with a human. They are also hunted for meat, and in Costa Rica, there are actual reserves specifically to hunt these tapirs. The lowland tapir has a thick, rough brown coat with a sagittal or muscular crest on their neck. You can see it right here. So it's very different from these right here. This one's got something similar to it. They forage, and most of their time is spent near a water source. They're considered vulnerable by the IUCN and are legally protected, but the illegal hunting of the animal still persists. Not to mention that they have to compete with local livestock for their food now. And this is the mountain tapir. And as you can see here, it is the smallest of all tapirs. Its coat is woolly and bristly, and it ranges from dark brown to even black. Their mouths and lips are lined with a white, tan, out lip line, is what I like to call it, if you follow Jaclyn Hill. Their habitats are described as montane forests, also known as a cloud forest. So it's really high up in the elevations, and it's basically what it sounds like. There's a lot of clouds in it. They have a bulky build, which allows them to pass and charge through dense vegetation. They're foragers and browsers. So the difference between foragers and browsers is foragers basically eat the ground covering, whereas browsers browse through like shrubs and bushes for like berries and seeds and stuff. They're herbivores, crepuscular animals, which they're most active at twilight, and they enjoy wallowing in the mud, which can help prevent or rid the skin of parasites. They have a poor eyesight but a good sense of smell, and they mark their territory by urinating, but are not that aggressive. This is the family Rhinocerotidae. It consists of 5 species and 4 genera. So they are characterized by having wide chest and short chubby legs. And their feet, if you can see up here, have 3 digits. And they have their horns that are made of keratin. Contrary to popular belief, their horns are not made of ivory, that's the elephants. They can weigh up to 700 pounds, and they evolved in North America but later became extinct to the region. They have small eyes, which constitutes for their poor vision. They share a common ancestor, the Hyrocodon, which is also a extinct relative of the rhino. They are herbivores, and they are also both browsers and foragers, and their diet consists of berries, shrubs, grasses, and even seeds. They can be aggressive, and they're very territorial animals. They're also solitary animals and can be either nocturnal or diurnal, which they can either be active during the night or active during the day. They are, however, still poached for their horns, even though they're not made of ivory. And their horns can actually be turned into medicinal needs and even, sadly, decorative needs, such as knife handles get carved out of the keratin that it's made of. And that's another thing. Their horns are made of keratin, like I said before, which we find in our nails and our hair. In the late Eocene, they resembled small dogs, such as a border collie, and they have no known predators besides humans. They are nearly extinct or critically endangered. Now, this is the white rhino, and this is actually really sad, so just prepare yourself. They are also known as the square-lipped rhino. They are the second largest land mammal, and there are only 2 white rhinos left in the world as of March 2018. They are legally protected by armed guards on the Pahita Conservation Site in Kenya, 24/7, all day, every day, all night. Their extinction is due to the mass poaching of the animals, mainly for their horn. They occurred in only 4 countries: South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. They were once social animals, forming quite the complex social hierarchy. Look how sad this picture is. This is the black rhino, which is the smaller of the 2 African rhinos. They have a hooked upper lip, and they are browsers rather than grazers. They have 2 horns. They are considered critically endangered and suffered a dramatic decline in numbers during the 20th century, but today their numbers are increasing and have actually doubled, are in the 5,000 range. The black rhino is more of a solitary animal compared to the white rhino, which is a social animal. They have a massive threat against poachers, like I said before. And you can really see that with the white rhino, where they really suffer. And basically all 5 species are considered endangered. Their basic needs for an environment are a water source, and they will generally stay close to their water source and only venture about a days away from it. And that is all. Hope you all have a good rest of your semester.